Three friends, one amazing series of YA novels, an insatiable thirst to relive the glory that is K.A. Applegate's literary masterpiece. This is Animorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Hello and welcome to The Speaking Tree, a Dork-Bajir Chronicles podcast that puts a spin on the Animorphs series. Last week we read Animorphs number 28, The Experiment, and this week we're back to dive a bit deeper. My name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Braden, the salt and vinegar chip boy. You know the one. He's in the commercials. He does the dance. That was me. That was me all along. D, salt and vinegar-y.
And we're joined by Adam Heap, also known as Steam Driven, patron of the show over at patreon.com/Dork-Bajir. Hi, Adam.
Can I go on an epic ramble as well?
If you want.
Okay. Hello. That'll do.
Yeah, that was great, actually.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What a short, concise ramble.
So obviously this is not live from the gardens. I feel like we did, talk enough about how this was not going to be a live from the gardens, and we're not ever doing that again. What instead we're going to do is the Speaking Tree, which is actually it's definitely much, much more Animorphs, morphing, world building focus, much less about animal trivia. Braden did reveal the true reason a few weeks ago, which is just that the government actually shut my IP down for a while because the animal sex videos, this watch list, basically it bit me in the ass. Anyways.
But it's okay, because that's what you're into.
He's recording this from federal animal fucker prison.
Yeah, actually, Julian Assange is right next to me in Ecuador, where we're stuck.
Oh, bring him on.
Yeah, animal sex. So the way this is going to work is we got 4 segments, 4 segments. First one is, it's called just summary or character summary. So we're going to, each week or each episode, one of us will walk you through the books that this narrator, so in this case, Axe, his books, we're just going to briefly summarize each one so that we kind of know at what point we're at now. The next segment is we're going to diagnose a problem they had in the book we just read and try to find a better solution to it. That's Animorphs ER. The next segment is Everyday Animorphs, where we pick an everyday situation. Usually it's the goof, honestly. And we'll try to figure out a way that we could make that work in our own lives by using morphing, but still sticking to the rules that they stick to in the books, so no morphing humans. The last segment is called My Life, My Morph, and basically we take the main morph. I'm going to try to stick to the morph on the cover of the book. Naturally, that could present some problems later in the series, as you guys know, but we'll try to stick to that.
They all start
for
morphing
now.
Penises. Yeah, it gets ribbled.
Or like older versions of themselves. Which, anyways.
It gets weird.
So we will basically decide how we would use that main morph in our own lives, not in an altruistic or not in an Animorphs way, but just how would we do it to make our lives easier or more fun. And that's it. That's the Speaking Tree. So Adam is here to be our guinea pig, and as he so accurately pointed out, if this goes horribly, horribly wrong, we're just going to blame it on him.
It's typical, because I'm the Brit, isn't it? All you Canadians conspire with your bloody maple leaves.
Hey, man.
Flappy heads and beady eyes.
Where were you when we burned down the White House, huh? You were back in...
Well, just because you like burning your own buildings doesn't mean we should get involved. Well, frankly, I want to stay as far away from that as possible.
If I learned anything from listening to the Hamilton soundtrack over and over again, it's that British people are terrible.
I'll have you know that America stole from us. When we helped you beat the French and the Spanish,
yeah,
you refused to pay the taxes we put on you for doing that. And that's where the War of Independence came from. Basically, you screwed us over.
Okay, I'm going to do the first segment this time, and we'll alternate, like I said before, but this is the character summary segment. So just quickly, Axe is a good one to start on because he has way less books. So his first appearance was book number 4, but his first narrated book was number 8, The Alien. And this book is essentially just about how Axe is a fish out of water. He's homesick. He really just wants to get back to his people, which is not surprising. But he learns that A, that's not going to be possible, and B, maybe the people on this planet are not so bad, or at least his friends are not so bad. So this is the book where he reads some books. I think he gets a world almanac that he reads. He also, in Human Morph, cracks a computer code on Marco's He fixes the computer code on Marco's dad's program, who's doing like satellite dish programming, and secretly, without telling the Animorphs, communicates with this homeworld. And they tell him, like, listen, we're going to tell everyone that you gave the Animorphs the morphing power so we don't sully Elfangor's name, which is a blow, right? Because even though he understands, it does alienate him from his own people.
Alienate. And the book's called The Alien. It's metaphors. Layers to these books, y'all.
He then takes it upon himself to kill Visser 3. Not surprising, because it's like revenge and honor and all that stuff. So he morphs the snake and then is going to bite Alaran's body, technically, with Visser 3 in his head, which he does do. But the Animorphs find out what he's doing, and before he can get killed, they help him and blah, blah, blah. Basically, the Yeerk of Visser 3's Yeerk, Esplin, whatever, gets away in a stream, and then Axe is like too much of a pussy to just kill Alaran's body, even though Alaran's like, please kill me.
Actually, I think Axe had a pretty good plan. Like, if they just let him bite the fucking... Like, if they just let him bite Alaran, I mean,
technically he did bite Alaran, but, Aloran, and Visser 3 escaped and was in the creek. And Aloran was like, y'all gotta get out of here. They're gonna give me antidote. This poison isn't gonna work. You have to get out of here, or you can chop off my head.
How did they find him in the creek, anyway? How did he get found?
I don't know. It's one of those biggest questions. He would have just been like a little burger.
I remember. Axe goes to that observatory, contacts his people, and then one of the scientists there is like, hey, I'm actually a Yeerk, asshole, but actually, I don't like Visser 3 either. He starved my girlfriend to death.
Convenience!
Yeah, and he tells Axe where to find Visser 3.
Yeah, but that doesn't explain how they found Visser 3 after he was a Yeerk in the creek, which I think was the real question.
If you'd like to hear more about our discussion on Animorphs, please visit that episode. Anyways, the point that you should take out of this book is that Axe trusts and likes the Animorphs a little bit more and understands that he's definitely separated from his people, even though he still feels very much connected to them, which is actually a big part of number 18, The Decision, his next book, where I think the main theme is Axe, now reunited with some real Andalites, shows his true colors and that he definitely prioritizes Andalites over humans. But then about halfway through that book, he realizes that that might be a huge mistake. And in fact, maybe it's not Andalites you have to trust, but it's your prince or where you know your loyalty is deserved. This is the one where they morph mosquitoes to get the DNA of that government guy, and then their matter gets hit in Z-space. Basically, they get sucked onto an Andalite ship to go fight in the Lyran homeworld, but they get sucked back to Earth.
You know how it is. You turn into a mosquito,
it's a real
you go into
sci-fi
space.
one. But the main thing, I think, in that book is that Axe lets the Animorphs be locked up by the Andalites while trusting this captain that turns out to be not a controller, but actually an actual traitor to the cause, which is like a huge blow to Axe's belief that the Andalites are the good guys only, right? But anyways, that's another book that doesn't really matter because they pop back to Earth and then they're like, well, we don't want to do that mission. Or like, what happens to the government guy? I can't remember.
No, yeah, he definitely gets yeerked.
He gets yeerked?
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he goes okay. He wakes up immediately and he's like, nurse, there's so many mosquitoes in here.
Oh, right.
As soon as they all boop back out of space. So then he is fine, and Chapman's days of being a criminal in a truck are over.
I don't see how that would stop them from just quickly just dragging him into the next room and dunking his head in the toilet real quick, though. The toilet that is the Yeerk pool.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's explained very well. It's very much like number 11, where it's just oh, we just went through this whole thing and took up 100 pages. We can't do any more. Let's just ignore this. It'll go away. And it does. So, sure.
Right. So, zing, 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 you've caught up to that bit. Can I just ask quickly?
Yeah.
You mentioned going back to book 8 for just the briefest moment. How do you compare it to how it went in the TV series? So I know you've been watching that.
Yeah.
Book 8. They do book. Oh, they do book 8 in the TV series, and that's when they have their hand wrestling competition.
Yeah, I was gonna point out specifically.
That scene is very good.
The lead up to that scene, it was actually one of the better moments in the whole series, I thought, because it was like actually semi-competent building of tension here, and then the arm wrestling comes into play. No, that's sad.
I think the scenes where they're actually just talking to each other in the TV show are the best scenes, where they're just shooting the shit or deciding on a plan. The scenes where they're actually doing real stuff where like CG is involved is awful.
Oh, it's horrible. It's yeah. Right, I just wanted to briefly bring that up.
That's a good point. Okay, let's move on to Animorphs ER. So this is a segment, like I said before, where we diagnose an issue in this book, Animorphs number 28, and try to find a more creative and effective being the key word here, solution. So creative is one thing, but it needs to be better than what they did in the book. And I think we can come up with quite a bit. So the situation...
Quite a bit.
the situation for this segment is, how do you approach the problem of two facilities that are both Yeerk controlled, and you know for a fact they're Yeerk controlled, but you don't know why the Yeerks control them?
But you also know they're both involved in food manufacturing. I think that's an important thing. Like, so there's like an element of urgency to, we need to figure out what they're doing because they're doing something to the food.
Sure. I don't know that how much that extra adds to it, but if you want to add that to your solution, that's totally fine.
Oh, okay. I guess it doesn't really do anything to the solution. I'm just thinking in like the brain space that we're playing in here. It's important context.
Okay. Maybe I'll start it. We've all got good solutions, I think, but I'll start just to set the tone. So first of all, this is a unique situation because you have two facilities, which is up to this point, it has not happened in the series, right? So I personally think they wasted a lot of time, Axe and Tobias both doing recon. I think they should have immediately split into two teams. The first team being Axe, Jake, and Rachel. The second team being Tobias, Marco, and Cassie. Now you'll notice that those two teams do not have very strong relationships to each other. That's important, actually. Axe and Tobias make sense as recon, 100%. Because for one thing, when they demorph into their original forms from their bird forms or whatever, they don't look human. Whereas the number of times that the others have demorphed to human and just been like, we're just crazy kids, has been really high. So Axe and Tobias, like in the actual book, make more sense for recon. I just think they should have been investigating both things at the same time.
Separately. I will say, though, that the Tobias Marco Axe team up, when they do actually do some split apart missions in the coming books, is one of the best teams just in terms of pure banter and greatness.
Yeah.
So
I don't disagree with
we're going to
that.
lose out with that funness if we go with Cassie instead.
Yes.
They are the three best characters.
Okay, so I think that in the book that makes a lot of sense that they recon first, of course, using Tobias and Axe. I think the fact that they only recon like one place at a time is very stupid. Like Tobias could have even just had a meeting with Axe every day to explain anything that Axe didn't understand about what he saw. But Axe's memory is good enough that he could
It's
easily...
incredibly good, yeah. He could have just been like, oh, there was this thing that happened. And then Tobias would be like, oh, that was just a Dorito chip bag. You're fine.
Yeah, exactly. So then the two human members, so we're talking Jake, Rachel, and Marco Cassie, they would morph stealth morphs. So the fly did make a lot of sense for the slaughterhouse, I think, especially of the GLEEP biofilters and all that stuff. That does make sense. What I think doesn't make sense is Axe and Tobias going with them. I think that made no fucking sense at all. Why did Tobias and Axe have to morph steer? Why didn't everyone morph a fly and then just go into a cow that they knew was going to the slaughterhouse? That was a giant bungle in my mind. Anyways, then the next thing you do...
At this break, I have to say, you said that the teams as you've made them have no relationships, and you've forgotten that Jake and Rachel are cousins?
Yeah, but
and Jake and Cassie are banging.
Do you really think that Jake would save Rachel over Cassie if both of them were in an equal amount of danger?
I had to mention it so the people on Twitter couldn't get to it first.
Fair enough. Basically, my whole thing was figure out what each facility is before deciding on what to do. They really fucked that up in this book. I think they should have stealthed the shit out of it. Two separate teams if they thought time was an issue, which I guess they must have, although it's not totally clear in the book. then they could have avoided a lot of shit.
So like
including Axe's
simultaneous
freakout.
recon?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, they haven't done that at all.
No, they haven't, but they've never been presented with two targets at once.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
Yeah, and also I think that like when they all went battle morph, that was also pretty stupid. Like imagine if one of them, like in the scene in the slaughterhouse where they all go battle morphs, it's like, well, if one of you had stayed flies and just gotten under the door or something, that whole thing would have been solved instantly, right?
Yeah.
But you gotta remember they're like, how old at this point? 15?
Yeah, they're really not. They're I think they're still maybe 13 and a half, maybe 14.
Right, but this is not a solution for what would the Animorphs actually do better. It's what is the ultimate solution, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
I suppose.
Right, so we can assume that they're the smartest, most athletic people that ever were put in this situation.
Most athletic. Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
I also think, as a sort of side note for the whole thing, they need to explain to Axe things before going on missions, where he was like, what are those cow carcasses flying through the... It's like, they should have explained to him what a slaughterhouse was.
You'd have thought it'd be pretty obvious in the name, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd think, right?
But is he just an idiot?
Yeah, pretty much.
He's
Pretty
just an
much.
idiot.
I mean,
He gets really into his soaps, y'all, and they don't have slaughterhouses on soap operas. Not since the Blood Between Us canceled 14 years ago.
I reckon you'd watch The Crystal Maze. I think that's the sort of thing you'd
That was my solution. Who wants to go next?
I agree with you, Mikhail. They should do recon, but also can't they just ask the Chi to do recon? It's not against their protocol. What else are the Chi doing? Actually, there's so many of them that are like that I assume are just living full time downstairs in the dog park. We can get some of them to sneak in. If the Animorphs want to tag along, like they've got to have technology that protects against Gleep biofilters. They can wander in looking like a human worker at the slaughterhouse, and the other guys are flies underneath the force field.
How determined are the Chi to actually help, though?
I know some of them are. Like Eric is, and there's a couple, at least, I would say at least half. There's a couple that aren't, as we know from book 10, that are really against it. But I don't think that side is very big. Especially because this comes on the heels of the Animorphs saving all of the Chi from book 27, where the puppy boat had a hiccup and all of them got, like, frozen, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the Animorphs kind of have a favor that they can, like, or a chit that they can cash in and be like, yo, Chi, sneak us in.
Okay, so your solution is make the Chi do everything?
It's not even make the Chi do everything, but just utilize them more instead of just having Eric be a FedEx truck giving you the plot. Why don't you be like, all right, Eric, this time you're going to tag along and, like, help us.
Do you think we could assume that, like, because they never do that, Eric actually wouldn't do anything they asked him to do? Like, maybe Eric has a long list of priorities and he's just like, listen, I'm just doing you guys a favor by telling you this.
I've got to go shop and get some pedigree chum. I can't be helping that.
yeah, Eric and the others. The thing about them is they're not only like pacifists. They have to stay pretty far away. Like even the ones that are part of like the Yeerk, the sharing and like pretend to be Yeerked, they have to, like, they can't get too high up, I don't imagine, because if they do, then they're just like in more spots where they could fuck up, you know?
And it'd be more obvious that they're trying to be subversive.
Yeah.
If one gets promoted to Visser and then suddenly he turns around and says, let's just deactivate that. Let's just not bother doing that. Let's just sacrifice everything. And someone's got to turn around and say, hold on a tick. This ain't right.
In book 27, they find out that remember Lourdes, the Chi, who was like living in that tenement house, who like was tracking, like, and all of a sudden I personally was like, holy fuck, like the Chi are into some fucking serious, like, this is like world changing, or not world changing, but like it's a lot deeper and darker than the things that the Animorphs are doing. And that's what made me say, like, I mean, I think it's funny to think of like, haha, maybe he's grocery shopping or whatever, but maybe he's just like, listen, we're trying to stop politicians from being yerked like every day. I have this little piece of info about a slaughterhouse that is clearly not that important. Well, I'll just hand that off to the Animorphs while I protect the president or something like that.
If there's a book written from Eric's perspective, they're doing this whole thing and they're like, okay, we've got like a little thing that the Animorphs can do and maybe not die. Here you go. And then they almost die anyway.
Can we just straight up assume that she have far better technology than the Yeerks?
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like they are better technology than anything the Yeerks have.
Well, in the last book too, they were like, we can't let the Yeerks get our technology because it's really good.
I mean, how good is it though? Like, it blocks a card that has been rubbed across an Andalite's pectoral, right?
You're talking about the TV show, yeah.
Our technology can just change itself when you rub it up on an Andalite's boob.
Right.
I hated that moment. Oh my god.
So good. It was so good.
I just hate this show.
Do you guys have anything else to add for this solution? I know Braden's got something to add to this for sure.
I had one thing about, so they infiltrate, they sneak, they find out that the plot is mind control meat. They realize that that's got to be fake, and then just let the Yeerks dig their own hole. It's a little bit callous, but like Axe was flipping through the TV channels and passed through a news story where someone was like, oh, there's local people missing in the area. People have already noticed, like enough non-Yeerk people have noticed these humans going missing. The Yeerks are going to, like, Visser 3 is going to develop so much of his focus and time and energy into this pointless endeavor. Why not let him keep busy doing that, and then he's not inventing something crazy? You know, like a demorphing ray or something.
I think the reason is because like they can't put up with the idea that there are like humans that they can free that they're not freeing, because that's kind of like their whole MO. So the idea of just leaving the humans there.
Then it has to come down to priority, doesn't it? I mean, there's a whole thing about prioritizing throughout the whole series, and you think about it, delaying the Yeerks or something like that, you're probably going to save a bit of time for a start, and probably save more people than just, there's 3 slaughterhouse workers over there. That's, I think the whole thing about prioritizing needs to be applied here, and I think they get that completely wrong.
I think though, just because like they hadn't figured it out yet doesn't mean they wouldn't have figured out how to take the free will away from humans. Like they said, like the Yeerks the scientists made a pretty big deal out of the idea that like, we just couldn't take free will away from sentient beings.
That's such a
but God. Obviously, like it wouldn't take that much to like find a way around it. Like maybe there wouldn't be some magic switch, but like, yeah, if they left this facility running, they would have figured out something useful. They would have figured out like,
because it's all in the brain.
Something useful to the Yeerks, I mean.
I just want to I don't want to wrap anything up now. I'm just saying, I think at the end of this segment, we should come up with one unified solution. And I think it sounds like, and I kind of agree with this, that part of that solution is actually don't destroy it. Don't disrupt it. Don't free the humans. Don't free the chimps.
Looking at Braden's, that's completely the opposite.
What the fuck did I just say? How fucking dare you?
Braden, what was your idea? You probably want to blow them up or something.
Well, I mean, yeah. Obviously, you attack one, probably with a large explosive device.
Or a bunch of rhinos and elephants.
Yeah, make the Yeerks think there's a large-scale attack going on that one. They divert all forces, and then you search the other one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you really wanted to prioritize stealth, as the Animorphs do sometimes, because, sometimes there's a Cassie book. One thing that, like, I've sort of been frustrated lately that they don't do is just, like, use, like, they can stay, like, far apart, but if they have, like, just one of them who's, like, the highest, fastest flying bird, just, like, go around and, like, relay messages between each other, they could, they could be so much stealthier.
How far are they apart again, these two places?
They've got to be, they're in the same city, so you can get there after, like, it's if we're judging distances described, like Cassie describes going to in book 14 going to Crazy Helen's place in the Badlands. That took like an hour or an hour and a half to drive. This is closer.
Mm-hmm. For any given very fast bird, not even minutes.
But the thing is also, like, birds, and I'm not trying to throw a wrench in this for the sake of throwing a wrench in it. I think this is legitimately true, is that most birds, especially given what Tobias has said about thermals and stuff, their actual ability to fly very quickly for a long amount of time is super, super low. Where they typically, like, I think a duck morph would actually make a lot more sense than a raptor morph.
For sure, because a duck morph could actually, maybe not fast, but they have that kind of endurance. All of the birds of prey morph have the speed when they're diving, is the second thing. They have to be up high and dive.
Somebody needs to get a Canada goose morph.
I suppose you've got to think as well, slaughterhouses you wouldn't have in the middle of a city or even really in the suburbs. They'd be spread out as far from sight as you want. And if there's two in one city, then they're not going to be next to each other because then there'd be a competition. They wouldn't like that. So
That's
you'd have
true.
the opposite ends of the city, away from the city itself. Not only that, but you got to consider the distance of thought speak, because from what I read book 2 recently. I did a bit of calculation. Thought speak through walls is like 30 meters max.
Oh, that's
so basically
terrible.
you'd have to go directly to each. You'd have to land basically on each building.
It's got to be like D&D magic rules where you can do it like through maybe up to a foot of wood or like six inches of like solid steel or something. But in open spaces, you can thought speak for several miles.
Depending on how thought speak is done, would it go faster underwater?
Faster underwater.
I don't think it would. In fact, it doesn't make sense why any kind of material would matter at all.
I think it's because, here's an idea. For thought speak, I think you have to have a visual of where the person is that you're sending the thought to. And when you can see them, that's very easy. But when you can't see them, you're just kind of guessing where they are in the building, and that's why it's spotty.
Oh.
Maybe.
Special episode coming up.
One solution that involves what you just said, Brayden, is why not have 2 recons and therefore cutting the distance in half, right? Because they can thought speak to each other. In fact, it would cut the distance into quarters. Well, no, that doesn't make sense. But it would definitely cut the distance quite a bit, right?
Yes.
Because they don't have to be touching each other at the midpoint between the two things to talk to each other. They could be quite far apart and talk to each other in the air and then do a 180 and go back and get more information or something like that. But that's only also if it's that key to relay details about both places. Do you know what I mean?
Sounds really dodgy, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
It would look pretty weird for anyone observing it, that's for sure. Okay, Adam?
Oh, is it my turn?
Oh,
Right,
well,
mine's
again, it's always everyone's turn.
Mine's brilliant. I've decided that we don't necessarily need to go into the building. So, 2 things you can do. Firstly, you can take note of who works there, and then follow them around for a bit. Pretty simple stuff. You might be able to learn some details depending on who they talk to without actually going into the building and whatever. Probably the better idea I had was track the products of the facilities, because if you think about a slaughterhouse, you're making products, and those products are going places. So if you start tracking the products, you can also see whether the 2 facilities send their stuff to the same places. Because if it was something to do with the products, then you think, well, surely the product then would go to a single place.
Right.
So if you don't find anything with that, if the product just goes to, like, butchers and then families eat it and nothing happens to the families, nothing untoward, then you can say, okay, so it's nothing to do with the product, it's something that's happening in and staying within the building. So then you can say, okay, we need to go into the building. So, obviously you've tracked the employee. If nothing else works, you can find a way to interrogate that tracked employee. And I've put on my notes, the best way to get information out of somebody is to get them drunk. So,
Okay.
befriend this person, take him to the nearest bar, and pay for all his drinks. Once he's drunk enough, he'll tell you all you want to know. And you do the mission that way. Oh, and also, Dork-Bajir are superior. They've got to spend some time identifying and doing essays on how Dork-Bajir are superior to Andalites. That's my idea.
Do Yeerks drink? Like, can they drink?
This is an interesting idea because, like, okay, a Yeerk in the human body. Maybe the human got drunk before the Yeerk was there, but the Yeerk probably has never experienced that. So that's going to be like getting an Andalite in human morph drunk. Like, they're going to be awash with sensation they haven't ever felt before. And yeah, I feel like a Yeerk would totally spill some juice on Visser 3. You got
I'm surprised they never tried it before. I'm surprised they didn't try
it. It's because these kids are underage.
Yeah, they can't
That's
drink
why you
it.
get fake licenses. Come on, think these things through. You know, Eric could... No, that's where the cheek can come in useful.
Buying them liquor.
Yeah, there'll be some Chi members old enough, surely.
Yeah, sure.
And when you come up to them, say, right, your mission today is to go have a drink with somebody. They're not going to turn their noses up at it, are they? They're going to be like, fucking yeah, right. Get on it, lads.
Alcoholism. It's funny.
It's the perfect solution to every problem.
Brayden, what were you going to say?
Do you think, like there's got to be some alcoholics who got yeerked? If, like... Do you think the Yeerks completely avoid getting wasted and, like, pretend to be cured? And if they do you think it's ever made someone notice, like, something's up with this person?
This is a good point.
I don't know, because I think there's inconsistencies. Sorry for interrupting you there. I think there's inconsistencies in the series where they say, oh, they don't do anything different. It's like you don't know that anything's changed at all. And then you get specific cases where they clearly have changed. Like the whole thing about Tom in the first book where he just quit the basketball team. And
yeah, that's true.
Just didn't give a damn anymore. It's like this inconsistency of, well, are they still the same or do they just quit sports? Chapman, I remember, I read book 2 recently, and I remember a specific line. Rachel said that the Chapmans were acting strange. 1, because Mr. Chapman was sitting down, and 2, because Mrs. Chapman was cutting up vegetables without listening to music. Now, that is strange. That is incredible. I'm not surprised you got so worked up about that. But
it's like that one comic. Tessa, I think I borrowed it from you. It's about this girl goes and lives with her brother and his new wife, and she finds out.
Oh, I love this. Okay, this is Emily Carroll. This is A Night in the Woods, and yeah, continue. It's amazing.
And then, like, she finds out that her new sister-in-law is actually, like, this freaky fucking alien from, like, some caves who, like, adopted this woman's skin when she was real young, but now needs, like, a new host.
For her children. She needs a host for her. They're like these little worm symbiote. If you've seen Venom, you can kind of think of it like that.
Yeah, and then the twist ending is like she's gonna fill her up with these worms, and she's like, you can't fill me up with the worms. People will notice I'm different. And then the alien's like, yeah, and they won't care because you're an annoying little bitch.
Because she's been freaked out by the sister-in-law, and she's, you know, a teenager, and her parents died, so now she has to live with the brother, and so she's been moody, and so the sister-in-law is like, yeah, everyone's just going to know that you now have a good mood, and now you're being more agreeable. They're not gonna care. They're gonna like the new you. Make room for my children. And it's so creepy. Oh, check it out. It's a collection of comics. That's one of the ones that are in there, and she's got a new book that just came out. And I really want to get it. And, I love Emily Carroll. It's beautiful.
If we go back to it then, do we think that a drunk person would suddenly, out of nowhere, just be, I'm healed. I've seen the light. I'm cured.
I don't think so either. Yeah, but...
Braden made a really good point a while ago. Sorry, I'm just going to interject with...
Of course.
The ultimate point that will solve this problem is pedophiles.
Yeah.
Right? So if you confess to pedophile and find out that they're a pedophile, are you just like, well, I guess I have to continue being a pedophile? It's like some people probably are just going to be like, wow, this guy really took a turn.
Pedophiles aren't typically open pedophiles.
Right.
They tend to not tell the public.
Yeah, but will the Yeerk feel the need to be a pedophile still? I don't like this topic.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, Adam. I just think that, like, you know, if you had a friend who was an alcoholic and all of a sudden they're just like, I'm going to really tone down my drinking, would you really be like, that's super suspicious? Or would you be like, oh, finally?
I suppose it depends how much of an alcoholic they are. if they literally live off drink, and then the next day they turn around and say, "Oh, I'm only going to have one GNT a week."
Sure.
You're going to be like, "Hold on, you must have some sort of slug in your head or something."
So I don't think it would be that suspicious for them to change their behavior as long as the Yeerk did it in a way that made sense, like in terms of just realism. Like,
Yeah. Just like, I'm gonna quit drinking and whack off to less child porn. What was that second one? I said I'm gonna quit drinking.
fuck off.
What about when half the sports stars in America suddenly jack it in? Are people going to get suspicious then?
Probably.
Send the conspiracy nuts wild, that's for sure.
I mean, Alex Jones, he's already guessed the Yeerks, making the frogs gay. Anyways, so let's wrap up Animorphs ER, because I think we found a pretty good solution.
Yeah.
The biggest solution, which I feel is going to be part of many of our solutions moving forward, but just do better recon. Identify people who work in the facilities, identify what the facilities are actually doing, even to the point of tracking down what effect the product has on its consumers, if it's that kind of facility, which in this case it totally is, but also splitting up, which is actually super key for the recon, especially. I personally think that going all battle morphs, every single person, is a huge mistake.
I do agree, Mikhail. I think these kids, I mean, they're just kids, so I get it. But they're jump too fast to everybody battle morphs, let's kick some ass. You only need Axe to demorph into an Andalite. That's all you need. And then maybe if more bad guys come and he gets overwhelmed, then okay. Also, y'all should acquire Axe as an Andalite so that it's not suspicious that there's a bunch of animals and then one Andalite.
No. I think because they'd all see that they're all like clones, and they'd be like, why do they all look exactly the same?
Yeah,
I guess, yeah, that's also...
Morphing takes time, so they couldn't morph from animal to Andalite, and they couldn't guarantee enough time to morph animal to human to Andalite.
This is all minor details, though. The overall solution seems to be figure it out first, then do the infiltration, but
do
also maybe even
kids.
More important than anything else, don't just blow it up because it's Yeerk controlled. Maybe let it operate. Maybe, I mean, in book number 14, they were like, no, let them think the Andalite toilet is a really high priority thing so they can waste time on it. And that's really smart. And this thing, really once they found out that it was fake, why didn't they just leave it be? I guess the point is
because ghostwritten.
They're doing more research into the human brain. They could figure out a way to genetically modify Yeerks to make them infest humans better or something.
Not just that, but it's Captain America. We don't trade lives. We don't let anyone behind. Okay, let's go to the next segment, Everyday Animorphs. So in this segment, we tackle an everyday situation that may or did happen in this book by using morphing. So all the normal rules, like in the last segment, still apply. So no morphing humans. And obviously, no morphing vegetables. So the question is...
What?
How do you get unlimited TV and internet to, let's just say, a laptop for the sake of modern times that you keep in the woods? Because a CRT TV, I think the internet is key in this case. How would you do that?
Well, if I may lead the charge with my very short one, basically, you just gotta morph someone famous, someone rich and famous.
Not morph.
You can't morph people. You can't morph people. That's against the rules.
Okay,
that's a critical rule.
Okay. Morph a really sexy animal and get a CEO to fuck you, and have scope it out. Have someone take pictures and then blackmail them for infinite money.
That raises an interesting question, though. What animals would you consider among that list?
See, I mean, I guess you don't, what, a cat?
We're not, instead of talking about animal sex in our new not Live from the Gardens thing, you could just be a peeping Tom and find something incriminatory to blackmail the CEO with.
You don't have to finish the morph. You could be a sexy cat boy and totally get rammed by
what the fuck?
What's the guy? Tesla. He's been calling everybody pedophiles. I don't think Elon would mind, just become like some tiny little cat person. I think he'll just ream you till the cows come home, and then you got...
What about giraffe?
A giraffe. Ooh, Lord.
Oh, Lord-a-loo.
Have you seen those giraffe tongues? Those things can get around thorns, but they can get around...
Those things can get deep, man.
Oh, yeah.
Tessa, what's your solution?
So modern times, you just get there's USB sticks you can get that have internet on them. You get one of those from your local Radio Shack, or alternatively, you borrow one of your friend's smartphones to just turn it into a Wi-Fi hotspot.
And then the battery dies and the whole thing goes to shit because you had 10 minutes of internet.
Your solution is just steal shit?
You can steal stuff, or
but with that internet, you can order more internet.
Exactly. You can just buy more on the internet.
I like that yours has nothing to do with morphing also. It's just here's a literal solution.
Here's one that's morphing. You could just morph a cat and be a peeping Tom to people's cabins in the woods because you don't need to own things because it's anarchy now.
Okay. So the solution is fuck the question.
Yes. I like Adam's solutions the most.
Okay.
I think if you morphed the world's longest snake and find the nearest telephone pole and connect yourself to it, and then to another pole where you live, and connects the line.
A pole where you live in an isolated forest.
Yeah, you can get your electricity that way, and the rest follows naturally. You get yourself a router. If that doesn't work, even though it's technically a flawless plan, then you can morph a potato, and you can make batteries out of potatoes.
Hey, I said no morphing vegetables.
It's a tuber, you fool!
They've got DNA. Why can't you morph them?
It happens in the books, Mikhail.
That's within the rules.
I think the idea is because you would not have a brain and you would not be able to morph back.
Yeah, you would, because you'd still have your own thoughts, because that happens in every animal.
Yeah, why can't they morph vegetables? What the fuck?
Because they never tried.
But I guess then you could morph a fingernail. Then you'd morph the fingernail's owner.
Yeah, and potatoes are basically just a potato with roots attached. So.
Well, does that mean you would morph a potato plant if you morphed the potato? Or just a seed?
But then you get your busy mate to morph the potato and then stick some nodes in him.
Fucking hell.
And then you get your electricity and you power your router, which you use to power the internet.
I had a real solution. So basically it involves...
well, sorry, getting fucked as a sexy cat boy isn't a real enough solution for you.
Actually, that's the closest one to actually a solution.
Mikhail's just a lot of work. I would rather just be a peeping Tom cat.
Okay, so also the question is, it needs to be in the woods. You can't just look through people's windows and that's a solution to a laptop in the woods. Anyways, you morph. You could do a half morph too if you wanted to risk people recognize even a little bit of you, but you could morph something scary like a wolf, or it's like a big cat, like a, not a house cat. And then, well, I guess before that, you'd have to find a target that you knew watched things like Alex Jones or those conspiracy, flat earth websites and stuff like that. Anybody who seems to believe or could believe that a thought speaking, intimidating animal wasn't a fever dream and something actually happening to them. Next, you need to make sure that they're not a controller. That's actually pretty easy. Just watch them for 3 days, basically. Then basically, okay, the issue that I couldn't really solve was the money for this next part, but I'm sure you could steal it somehow. So you basically intimidate the guy working at the telecom company first, and then the power company, or vice versa, and get them to build you what is, it's a line to God because the rapture's coming, or something based on their very specific beliefs.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? So you need to put this power line to this really specific spot and build a 120 volt adapter for a regular ass power outlet that can handle, whatever, that's fine for a laptop, right? Then they're going to do that. And then you could even to make it a bit easier, you could morph a mole and dig out the trench where they would lay the line underground.
As we know from book 17, though, that moles are not very good at digging, for human reasons.
they're better at digging than most animals.
It would just be easier to get a shovel, though. Like, for your human reasons, it'd be easier to get a shovel, I think.
I think I should just get a smartphone and then use it as a... No, come on. Let me have this.
I think the cat idea... I think the cat idea was...
Yours is so much work. It has so many steps.
Mine is actually would work, though, is the problem. So you dig the trenches...
Mine would work.
Okay. How about you morph like an anteater? Something that could dig trenches pretty easily, right?
There you go. I believe anteater. Those big old claws.
And then you dig the trenches and bury the cable, which was already dug, which is like even helping the suspicion part of, or like the paranoid part of that guy doing it. And then do the exact same thing with the telecom guy and you're done. And like, really, if you do a telephone pole off the freeway or something, no one's going to notice that. So the last segment of our show, because we're running long on time here a bit, but it's called My Life, My Morph. So in this segment, we quickly decide on what the best use of the main morph in this book would be for our own lives. I have the best answer. I would basically just not buy groceries. Because if you think about it, you could morph a bull or a cow, go to any fucking field or like literally anywhere where there's grass, eat for an entire day, and then well, I guess not an entire day. How long do you think they eat for?
Several hours.
Pretty much an entire day.
Pretty much the entire... I'm just realizing there's a massive flaw in this plan, is that I would have to actually be a cow for my whole life.
It comes up in a later Tobias book that when you morph, you can eat and morph, and it doesn't carry over to your regular body, and vice versa.
No, we did find out in book 25 that it actually does, though.
Plus, you'd be sacrificing pizza, pot noodle, macaroni cheese...
Yeah, but I'm poor.
Grass.
I'm poor is the
grass.
problem.
You know, I've always wanted to eat grass, but like it actually really fucks up your teeth.
And your digestive system, which is not prepared to digest grass.
I mean, it just comes out the other side.
Yeah, but it would be like pure fiber. Like it would destroy your insides.
Pure fiber.
Well, because you have to eat so much of it to get even a small amount of calories to power your body that it's an enormous amount you have to eat every day. I realize I'm just shooting myself in the foot for my solution here.
I feel like also you have 4 cow stomachs that have to ferment the grass so that you can actually use it. Are you just going to like wait in cow morph for that to happen?
I'm not sure it's ferment is the right word, but
that's part of what they do. Yeah, is to help break down the cellulose in the stuff.
Does that sound right, Adam?
Yeah, you'd be pretty screwed, basically. Put it that way.
Okay. Fine, fuck you. What's your guys' solution?
So much for your best answer, Mikhail. I shall give you mine. Similar, in principle, because it involves food. Free beef.
Oh my god, you're cutting pieces of yourself off?
Because then when you morph human, you're fine. You heal.
Yeah.
No. But didn't we find out that the part would disappear once you morphed back? It would go back into Z-space or whatever?
Oh, that does make sense.
I know. You cook it and eat it before you morph back.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. No, I've got a better idea, right? So you cut the leg off. You give it to the butcher, which turns out to be you. No, your friend.
Okay.
And he sells it to some gullible sod who puts it in there, puts it in their car and drives home. When he gets home, dear God, it's gone.
Was that your American accent? Because I loved it.
Dear God, it's gone. I better go back to the butcher's.
Yeah.
So he comes all the way back, and by that time you've done it again, and you've got another leg, and you sell it to him, and he puts it in his car, teedle-deedle-dee, on his way home, opens the boot or trunk, whatever you call it, and says, "Dear God, it's gone," and cycle repeats over and over, and you make lots of money.
Well, I'm actually okay with that.
That one makes sense. Here's what I would do. I would go to Spain and do the running of the bulls as another bull.
Okay.
And then what? They kill those bulls.
Yeah, but then I would like be a bull running beside the bull and I'd get the thrill of it. But like, because I'm a bull, there's a less, and also I'm in morph, there's a less chance that I will die because if I get gored by the real bull, I can just like demorph and be fine. And I'll demorph before we go into the final pen at the end. Basically, my little brother did the running of the bulls a couple years ago, and like, I don't want him to be like the coolest sibling, so I gotta bump my street cred up.
Ah, there's where the selfish part comes in.
So there we go.
There you go.
Okay.
Or you can just like just morph a bull in a field of cows and just intimidate them and like get them out of the field and into a town and wreak mischief.
So your whole plan is either get street creds with your one sibling.
I think all of my siblings would be impressed. It's hard to figure out. No, the real thing I would do is like go up into office buildings, like the 5th floor or something, and then morph bull. And just turn into bulls in places that bulls should not be.
You know what would be good is actually
Just for
going
the
to
memes.
the Rockefeller. Is it the Rockefeller Center in New York that has that big iron statue of a bull, and then just morph a bull and stand in that position?
That's the charging bull. It's just outside of the out of the Wall Street Trade Building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would do. I would just go and pose.
And
That reminds me, have you ever,
I
have you
love
ever
that.
thought how easy it would be to make memes if we all had this ability?
Oh, that'd be brilliant.
To make memes?
Because you just have make a meme like skydiving octopus,
Fair enough.
you know, and there'd be no animal cruelty
the
charges because it'd be
classic
you.
meme, skydiving octopus.
Okay, Raiden.
Well, there it is.
Mine's real quick, real simple. Get one of those like really valuable bulls, and then just like sell me own bull cum.
Not dissimilar from Adam's, except it's probably more valuable than the meat.
And then when they get home and find that there isn't any bull cum left, they go, "Dear God, it's gone," and they come back to you for more.
I don't think your bull cum wouldn't disappear.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah,
the
it
cum
would.
would actually disappear because, like, if the flesh, it makes sense. It's part of the body, but the sperm ejaculate, it's already released from the body. Like, we have to assume when the Animorphs,
Yeah, but it's all brought about by chemistry. So
when the Animorphs are fighting and they're bleeding all over, I think the blood, like, so the Animorphs are in battle morph and they're fighting and they're bleeding all over, and then they go and they morph back. I think the blood is still on the floor.
No.
I think their morphed up blood is still everywhere that they bled.
No. Definitely
Yes,
not.
actually,
Definitely
no,
not.
it definitely is. So I think the cum thing actually makes more sense than the beef.
no.
Do you think would the jizz reappear when you morphed that bull again?
Oh gosh, just somewhere.
Oh,
If
God.
they put that bull cum in a cow quick enough, and like it got pregnant with the like little zygote, like pre-fetus, like would half of it just disintegrate in the womb?
It just comes out as half a cow. Well, this is getting grim.
Yeah, let's move on to the last segment, which is...
Predictions.
Predictions.
So next week, we'll be discussing Animorphs number 29, The Sickness, the Cassie book, where she turns into a Yeerk on the cover.
It's so good.
Brayden, why don't you give us your predictions for that one?
I am very excited for this one. I want to know what it's like in that Yeerky pool. Okay, it's Cassie. She's looking pretty slick, kind of like sporty, like ready to run. She's got one of those like windbreakers that we all had in the 90s.
Hell yeah.
Morphing that Yeerk, and oh boy, this goes very wrong right away in the
Immediately, just immediately.
immediately just like kill me. Okay, Cassie is about to make a change for the better. She is going.
Off a bridge.
She's gonna fucking. Oh fuck!
No, come on.
I know why. She's transforming into a Yeerk to control somebody. Maybe somebody.
Dear God, I think he's got it.
Maybe somebody who is close to. I think Cassie is gonna try to save Tom.
Oh.
I think she's gonna try to do something big because, like, she's just so fucking tired of all this compromise and all this, like, playing it too close to the chest, and she's gonna try to get someone close to them, and someone close to someone she cares about unyeerked.
But where does the title come from?
The Sickness. They listen to some Nine Inch Nails, and Cassie's like, is this the guy who is these the guys who do the sickness?
Down with
And
the
Cassie's
sickness.
mom is like, you better come on, get down with the sickness. And Cassie's like, Mom, please shoot me.
Oh,
Nice
my God.
is
Shoot me, Mom!
Okay, Adam, where can we find, because you're on the internet quite a bit, where can we find your stuff?
All right, since this is Animorphs podcast, I do the Animorphs YouTube channel, which is simply titled Animorphs. And I do all sorts of stuff on there. I've recently started a review series. I've played the board games with a friend.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I saw some of those. They're pretty bad.
Are there any spoilers in the board game?
It's terrible. That's the spoiler.
It's pretty awful.
Yeah.
One of them is loosely based on the TV series, one based on the books. What else do I do on there? I do little Animorphs quizzes. All sorts, basically. Toy reviews as well, I've done them. Because, of course, I am the #1 fan. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I'm on the Discord, and we're going to be hosting an Animorphs Christmas quiz
Aw.
on the 15th of December. So if you want to tune in to listen to that, I've already got my contestants, but it could be something that we can make a regular thing.
How do people join the Animorphs Discord, Adam?
There will be a link in the description and wherever else Mikhail decides to put it.
Tessa, where can you find more of our stuff?
You can find more of our stuff on our podcast page at collectivelegacy.org, and we've also got Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, and Instagram.
Remember to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, or else I'll keep speaking in this slick ASMR voice deep into your ear until
While you're thinking about Bullcum.
against your own will.
While you're thinking about Bullcum, he'll be speaking to you.
Mama.
Dear God, he's mad.
You can also show your support for our show by subscribing to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Dork-Bajir. Also, I don't know if I ever mentioned this, but you don't have to pay us to subscribe to the Patreon. You can totally, there's a follow button, which means like you can see everything we post. And mind you, you won't get access to everything we post, but we do post stuff on there, like
We do have some preview content that you can take a look at.
bloopers for everyone, so like you don't have to be a patron to see those bloopers. I also am like periodically unlocking some of our Animorphs essays. So for November we had unlocked my first essay, We'll Be Heroes After All. So that was your chance. We're past that point now, but keep an eye out because we'll probably be unlocking more stuff here and there.
We offer special bonuses for patrons, like access to our Discord server, Animorphs essays written by us, and much, 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 much more. You get what I'm saying? Huh?
Oh yeah.
Huh? You want to get your toes sucked, baby? Jump on our Patreon, baby. I'll suck your fucking toes until your nails curl in my tongue.
Oh god damn it.
Yeah, come on. Come on.
Tessa saved me.
I'm so uncomfortable. And lastly, we like to give a shout out to our patrons at the Dork-Bajir level or higher by giving them an Animorphs style title. Mikhail, kick it off.
Big thank you to Andrew Vila, the intimidated telecom worker.
Greg Della Posta, the unforgiven.
Mariah Wamby, the wombats.
Shanna, the indestructible human free will.
Anyanka, the artist.
Oh god.
Steam driven, steam driven, steam driven, steam driven.
Steam driven.
Oh, Adam Heat. Oh, Adam, oh, Adam, oh, Adam, oh, Adam, oh, Adam Heat. Please don't
Jesus.
kill me with your strong, strong hands. Please don't come to America and take it back from the heathens.
Oh,
I
God.
swear, I swear, I swear, I swear, I swear. Your queen, I want her back.
Awful. This is so
Queen,
off
oh
the
queen, oh
rails.
queen, oh queen, Elizabeth. Oh. You know they just knighted Tom Hardy? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I should get knighted.
Yeah. Does this count?
By the way, Dork-Bajir is superior to Andalites.
Hell yeah.
For the Fanimorphs, my name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Braden, #1 dance boy.
And I'm Adam, and I'm British. Somehow.
Yeah. What up with the queen, yo?
And this has been The Speaking Tree, a Dork-Bajir Chronicles podcast.
Yeah!
Oh my
That's
god.
one in the
This is,
barrel,
I feel
baby.
like this has been way too, the Braden has been very stinky on this episode. We got good old Braden stank on this one, y'all.
I think also this format is going to cater to Brayden's just general personality a lot more.
Just his whole demeanor.
Hello everyone, my name is Jared, and this is Two Nerds in a Basement. Once a week, me and another nerd watch one of the over 70 movies put out by Marvel or DC Comics over the last 50 years and talk about them for far too long.
Can we just take a moment to address the fact that Howard the Duck looks like Martin Sheen?
You just want a Jimmy Olsen torture scene, right?
Something. Don't just shoot him in the head. Like, string him up by his toenails and just go to town on him.
He's just got this scratchy voice. It's so annoying.
What's our solution to nuclear warfare, 10-year-olds?
It's like, I want to be a witch. I want to you explore the black magics, and you get the aesthetic of your dreams, right?
I went straight to the boob grabbing. Hang on. Let me get there.
Brought to you by
Collective Legacy.
a podcast network.